saving our planet, lifting people out of poverty, advancing economic growth.
President Putin has ordered Russian military commanders to put the country's
These are
strategic
one
nuclear
and the
forces.
same fight.
Written by hundreds of scientists from around the world,
We must
finds
connect the
that
dots
greenhouse
between
gas
climate
emissions
change.
from 2010 to 2019 were at their highest level in human history.
Water scarcity,
Single item on the list
energy
is
shortages,
clean electrification, which means cleaning up the electricity sector, generating electricity without carbon.
Last
global
month,
health.
Chinese President Xi Jinping placed Hong Kong authorities on notice, instructing them to take all necessary measures to contain the virus.
I mean, if we look at the
Food
current situation,
security.
and I'm referring to the Ukraine conflict, which followed 2 years of COVID pandemic, the global agriculture production and food distribution already putting under stress food security in the world.
and women's empowerment.
We will not intentionally provoke China, but neither will we be naive to China's true intentions.
Let's now take a tour in our environment, from the process of ecological succession to the biomes of the world, and how humans are gradually destroying our beloved planet, and the possible solutions to protect our natural resources. According to Mohit Agadi, environment is no one's property to destroy. It's everyone's responsibility to protect.
A desolate and eerie landscape in the northwestern Philippines. It looks like the aftermath of a nuclear holocaust. Instead, it's the wrath of Mount Pinatubo, a volcano that rained down over towns and farmlands, killing more than 300 people.
During the eruption of Mount Pinatubo in 1991, the ash plume height reached 40 kilometers into the atmosphere, ejecting lots of magma. It is estimated that total destruction cost left by the eruption was estimated 700,000, according from the report published by Asia Disaster Center. There are even some towns buried because of the ash fall. 31 years after the disaster, people from Zambales have already recovered. The ash or remains from the eruption of Mount Pinatubo help for the enrichment of soil of the area. Let's talk about ecological succession.
Ecological succession is the process by which the mix of species and habitat in an area changes over time.
There are two kinds of ecological succession: primary succession and secondary succession. Primary succession.
Primary succession happens when a new patch of land is created or exposed for the first time. This can happen, for example, when lava cools and creates new rocks, or when a glacier retreats and exposes rocks without any soil. During primary succession, organisms must start from scratch.
Secondary succession.
Secondary succession is a type of ecological succession that occurs in an environment with an already established ecosystem that gets disruption due to some events like fire or hurricane and is then recolonized by other organisms. Ecological succession was the initial step of nature to take over or restore a specific environment. In the process of succession, it will start with small species of plants growing, such as grass and perennials. Over time, different species of plants will thrive like herbs in small trees. When it will reach the climax community or the final phase, diversity of plants and animals will already occupy the place. Ecological succession is beneficial because it gives a chance for the land or habitat to be restored. If the succession becomes successful and reaches its climax phase, biodiversity of plants and animals will have a place to stay.
Factors affecting population growth, survival, and reproduction.
A population is a group of individuals of the same species that live in the same geographic area that interbreed with each other. Many species consist of multiple populations dispersed over a few to many geographic areas, but the size of the population could increase over time, and this is what we call population growth. Population growth rate is affected by birth rates, death rates, immigration, and emigration. If a population is given unlimited amounts of food, moisture, and oxygen, and other environmental factors, it will show exponential growth. But if these are limited, so the adverse effects happen. Some examples of limiting factors in the reproduction in a given population are biotic, like food, mates, competition with other organisms for resources. Others are abiotic, like space, temperature, altitude, and amount of sunlight available in an environment. Limiting factors are usually expressed as a lack of a particular resource. Here is an example of population growth of a cockroach presented through the sigmoidal growth curve. For the lat phase, it takes 6 to 8 weeks for cockroach eggs to hatch. In exponential growth phase, one cockroach can produce 35 offspring, meaning if there are 2 pregnant cockroaches after 6 weeks, their eggs will hatch 70 cockroaches. Moreover, in a year, there is an average of 300 cockroaches produced. Cockroaches will never leave their colonies as long as there is no depletion of resources. This represents the transitional phase of the growth curve. As a plateau or stationary phase, cockroach lives in colonies. Their life cycle spans only in a year for male and 2 years for the female one. Cockroach lives in tight, wet, and cold place because it helps them survive if there are human interventions. We can see cockroaches in canals and even decaying woods from our stock room. The causes, effects, and response of underpopulation and overpopulation. If we are talking about ecosystem, it consists of all the organisms and the natural environment where they interact. Biodiversity provides important roles in ecosystems that supply oxygen, clean air and water, pollination of plants, pest control, wastewater treatment, and many ecosystem services. The Northern Sierra Madre Natural Park composed an ecological niche to various species of wildlife, but due to the lack of habitat for our indigenous species of animals, this leads to a fall in their number. Protecting nature should be prioritized, specifically the Northern Sierra Madre, because the environment supports and houses our ecosystems, allowing them to grow and thrive. If we fail to protect our environment, we will put the lives of humans, animals, plants, and more at risk. Moreover, underpopulation and overpopulation has also a negative effect on our environment. Underpopulation can lead to an unstable economy, river shortage, and most importantly, this may cause other organisms to decline and may also lead to the overpopulation of other organisms.
Wala raw kapangyarihan ng National Commission on Indigenous Peoples o NCIP na ipatigil ang construction. Pero ang sabi ng NCIP, dapat walang isinasagawang construction dahil wala pang pahintulot ng mga katutubo.
The Sierra Madre Mountains are home to several indigenous plant and animal species. We believe that increasing initiatives that assist the sustainability and survival of our forest regions is the proper thing to do. Tree planting, cleanup efforts, and anything else that might bring society and the community together. Some species, such as foundation species and keystone species, play particularly important roles in determining their community's structure. Foundation species are species that have a strong role in structuring a community that provide foods and shelter to insects and other organisms. Keystone species are organisms that help define an entire ecosystem. They are the engineers of nature.
Keystone species are those that play a unique and crucial role in ecosystem function. They have a disproportionately large effect on their environment relative to their abundance. Because of their key role in maintaining biodiversity efforts to manage and protect, keystone species can stabilize the entire biological community. In an ecosystem, all creatures are interconnected. Because organisms are interconnected, they create interactions with one another. Some creatures fight for resources or space with other organisms. The interaction among organisms within or between overlapping niches can be characterized into 5 types of relationships: competition, predation, commensalism, mutualism, and parasitism.
We proceed in identifying the different biomes around the world and their characteristics. These are the following.
Tropical rainforests. A tropical rainforest is a jungle that is warm all year. Temperate forests. This is the type of forest where the seasons are very different. Deserts. Deserts are the warmest biome, yet they may also be freezing in winter. Tundra. Tundra is flat and frigid, with low flora such as grass and moss that thrive only during the brief summer. Taiga or boreal forest. Taiga is the world's biggest terrestrial biome. It is mostly composed of conical-shaped evergreen trees with needle-like leaves. Grasslands. Savanna. These tree-studded grasslands receive sufficient yearly rainfall to allow trees to flourish in open groups or individually throughout. The savanna relies on a combination of fire and grazing animals to survive.
We have witnessed the different biomes around the world. And now, let's focus on our country, the Philippines. We have 3 biomes in the Philippines, and these are
Tropical and subtropical moist broadleaf forests. The Luzon montane rainforests are a tropical wet broadleaf forest ecoregion on the Philippine island of Luzon. Rainfall occurs throughout the year, but peaks from May to January with an annual average of roughly 2,100 millimeters. From November to April, there is a distinct dry season. The temperature ranges between 15 and 20 degrees Celsius on average. Many of the island's indigenous species and animals may be found in these pine woods.
Remember, we are lucky because living in tropical conditions increases our need for lighter and fresher foods in order to stay cool and energized. Warmth and sunlight may have a significant impact on your health, from increased heart and lung function to greater mental performance, with fewer aches and pains associated with aging. Living in a warm climate may provide you with the health boost you require, as well as a healthier lifestyle in a less stressful atmosphere.
Sierra Madre's protection against exploitation and ecological damage is one of the most talked about issues in the Philippines. The issues are logging, mining and quarrying, and kaingin and upland settlement.
Illegal logging has a negative impact on the ecosystem by causing deforestation, biodiversity loss, and greenhouse gas emissions. Mining and quarrying may be extremely damaging to the environment. The most visible engineering impact of quarrying is a change in geomorphology and land use conversion, with the resulting change in visual scene. The chemicals produced by mining activities can cause erosion, sinkholes, biodiversity loss, and pollution of soil, groundwater, and surface water. Kaingin and upland settlement are the results of commercial logging and mining, wherein there is movement of individuals seeking associated jobs, which opens upland areas for settlement that brings workers and families to previously uninhabited places.
These ecological problems in Sierra Madre can be treated or avoided through government aids and actions. The Northern Sierra Madre Natural Park biodiversity conservation must be strictly implemented to stop the exploitation of natural resources. The government must provide relocation areas and housing projects for the upland settlers where there are available livelihood programs provided by the government that can sustain and support their families' daily living to reduce poverty and inequality by generating employment among poor households and by moving highly vulnerable households into sustainable livelihoods and toward economic stability.
The jury has reached a verdict, and it is damning. This report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is a litany of broken climate promises.
Scientists say that we only have 45 years to help solve climate change. If we are not able to address these issues, the whole world will suffer from the irreversible effects of climate change.